Hello, everyone. This is Eleanor Rigby. I was holding this old tarnished silver teaspoon in my hand this morning, just running my thumb over the handle. It's nothing fancy. In fact, if you looked at it closely, you would see it is scratched and bent a little to the left. But looking at this spoon took me right back to a rainy Tuesday morning in November of 1974. That was the morning I almost walked out the front door and never came back. It was the morning I stood in my kitchen, gripping the countertop, realizing that the butterflies were dead, the spark was gone, and I felt absolutely nothing for the man sleeping in the other room. If I hadn't learned the lesson I'm about to share with you today, if I had just followed my feelings, I would have lost the greatest friendship of my life. I would have missed out on 40 more years of beautiful, messy, wonderful life. Before I tell you this story, please subscribe. I want to pass this wisdom down before I'm gone, so you don't make the same mistakes I almost did. I want you to build something that lasts. Let me take you back to where it started. When I first met Arthur, it was 1962. It was like something out of a movie. I remember the smell of his cologne, Old Spice and tobacco, and the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he laughed. We were young, we were foolish, and we were drowning in that electric feeling the world calls love. You know the feeling I'm talking about. It's the feeling that keeps you awake at night. The feeling that makes your heart race when the telephone rings. We got married fast. We didn't have a penny to our names. Just big dreams and a tiny apartment in Chicago that smelled like radiator dust and coffee. For the first 5 years, it was easy. Loving him was as natural as breathing. It felt like gravity. I didn't have to do anything, I just fell. But let me tell you the truth. Gravity is a force, but love, real love, isn't a force of nature that just happens to you. I didn't know that then. I thought that feeling was the love. I thought the excitement was the proof. Then came the 1970s, life got heavy, we had 2 children in diapers. Arthur was working double shifts at the plant, and I was trying to manage a household on a budget that seemed to shrink every time I went to the grocery store. The conversation stopped being about dreams and started being about bills. The efforts, laughter got quieter, the silence got louder. I remember this specific year, 1974. It was a hard year for everyone, I suppose, but inside our house, it felt like a winter that wouldn't end. The man I had fallen for, the one with the crinkling eyes, seemed like a stranger. He was tired. I was tired. We were like 2 ghosts passing each other in the hallway. I can still hear his voice from those days, sharp, short, edged with frustration. And I'm sure he would say the same about mine. I started to look at him and feel disappointment. I started to wonder where the magic went. I would lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, listening to him snore, and thinking, is this it? Is this the rest of my life? I felt trapped. I felt unloved, not because he was cruel, but because he was distant. And worse, I felt that I didn't love him anymore. The feeling was gone, and because the feeling was gone, I thought the marriage was over. That Tuesday morning in November, it was pouring rain. A cold, gray Chicago rain. I woke up before him. Like I always did, I walked into the kitchen and saw the sink full of dishes he hadn't washed, even though he promised he would. It seems so small now, doesn't it? A sink full of dishes? But back then, it felt like a symbol of everything that was broken. I stood there, and I made a plan. I thought, I will pack a bag. I will go to my sister's in Wisconsin. I am done. I felt entirely justified. I felt that I deserved to feel those butterflies again, and I wasn't getting them here. I went to the drawer to get a spoon for my coffee. This spoon, the one I'm holding now, and as I held it, getting ready to make coffee for just myself before I left, I stopped and I looked at the coffee pot. My late husband used to say that character is what you do when no one is watching. Well, I think love is what you do when you don't feel like doing it. I stood in that cold kitchen, shivering in my bathrobe, and I had a war inside my head. My emotions were screaming at me to leave. My heart felt cold as a stone, but something deep inside me, maybe the voice of my grandmother, or maybe just a whisper from God, said, "Make him a cup." I didn't want to. I wanted to pour the coffee down the drain, but I took down 2 mugs. I put the spoon in his mug. He took 2 sugars, and I stirred it. Clink, clink, clink. That sound. It was the sound of a decision. I wasn't feeling love. I was feeling anger. I was feeling resentment. But I chose to act with love. I walked into the bedroom, put the coffee on the nightstand, and touched his shoulder. "Arthur," I said, "coffee's ready." He opened his eyes, those tired eyes, and looked at the steaming cup, then at me. He didn't know I had a suitcase half packed in my mind. He just saw a cup of coffee. He sat up, took a sip, and looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen in 2 years. "Thank you, Ellie," he said. "I know I've been a bear lately. I'm sorry." That didn't fix everything instantly. We didn't suddenly have a movie montage where we ran through a meadow. No, we still had arguments. We still had money troubles. But that morning I learned the secret. Love is not the butterflies. Love is the coffee. Love is not the feeling you get when you look at someone. It is the choice you make to be kind to them even when they are annoying you. It is the choice to forgive them when they are wrong. It is the choice to put their needs above your own, especially when you don't feel like it. I stayed and I made a choice every single morning for the next 40 years. Some mornings, the choice was easy. Some mornings, choosing to love Arthur was the easiest thing in the world. We had beautiful years. We saw our children graduate. We traveled. We danced in the living room to Frank Sinatra. But let me be honest with you, young people today might not understand this, but there were years where the choice was agony. When he got sick in the late 90s, when he lost his job in the 80s, when we lost our way, there were mornings I woke up and looked at him and thought, I have to choose him again today. Really? And I did. I got up, I made the coffee, I chose him, and do you know what happened? Because I kept choosing him, the feelings came back, but they weren't the cheap, flighty feelings of being 22. They were deeper, they were richer. It was a love that felt like a majestic oak tree with roots that went down into the center of the earth. It was a love that could withstand storms. I remember when Arthur passed away 5 years ago, I was sitting by his hospital bed, holding his hand, a hand that was spotted with age and rough from work. He looked at me and said, "Ellie, you were the best choice I ever made." And I realized then through my tears that we had built a masterpiece, not because we were perfect people, not because we were soulmates destined by the stars, but because we were two stubborn people who refused to give up on each other. We were two people who woke up every morning and cast a vote for our marriage. You have to understand, living in this modern world, you are being sold a lie. You watch movies and you see social media, and it looks like love is a constant state of euphoria. If you aren't happy every single second, you think something is wrong. You think you need to swipe left or find someone new. You think, I've fallen out of love. Experience has taught me that falling out of love is usually just the moment where the real work begins. It's the moment where the invitation arrives to actually love someone, rather than just enjoying the way they make you feel. When you base a marriage on feelings, you are building a house on sand. Feelings are like the weather here in the Midwest. They change every hour. One minute it's sunny, the next it's storming. If I had left Arthur every time I didn't feel love, I would have been divorced 50 times. But when you base a marriage on a choice, a vow, you are building on a rock. You are saying, I choose you when you are grumpy. I choose you when you are sick. I choose you when we are broke. I choose you when you are old. And that is where the safety comes from. That is where the intimacy comes from. You can only be truly vulnerable with someone when you know they aren't going to leave. The moment the sun goes behind I look at young couples today and my heart aches for them. Sometimes I see them giving up so easily. They treat people like disposable cameras, use them up for the fun moments, and then toss them aside. They are looking for the perfect person. In all my 80 years, I have never met a perfect person. Arthur wasn't perfect. Lord knows I am not perfect. We were just two imperfect people who refused to give up on each other. There is a freedom in this if you can grasp it. It means you don't have to panic when the feelings fade for a season. You don't have to worry that the relationship is dead just because it's quiet. You just have to wake up, go to the kitchen, and make the coffee. You have to do the act of love. You have to speak the words of love. And I promise you, the feelings will catch up. The heart follows the hands. Think about that. The heart follows the hands. If you treat someone with love, eventually you will feel love for them again. I wish I could make Arthur one more cup of coffee. I would give anything to hear him complain about the weather one more time. I would give anything to see him sitting in his chair, reading the paper. When you are young, you think you have forever. You think you can waste days being angry or petty. But time is the one thing you can't earn more of. So here is my advice to you from an old woman sitting on her porch with a tarnished spoon. Stop waiting to feel it. Start doing it. If you are in a relationship right now and you are struggling, if you feel like the spark is gone, don't just walk away. Look at the person next to you. Look at the history you have. Ask yourself, can I choose them today? Just today. Don't worry about 10 years from now. Just today. Can you make them a coffee? Can you ask them how their day was and actually listen? Can you forgive them for that thing they said yesterday? Love is a discipline. It is a habit. It is a muscle that you have to exercise, and the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. I am alone in this house now. The rooms are quiet, but they are filled with memories. I look at the armchair where Arthur sat, and I don't remember the fights. I don't remember the dishes in the sink from 1974. I remember the way he held my hand when I was scared. I remember the way he built the swing set for the kids in the backyard. I remember the life we built brick by brick, choice by choice. It was the hardest thing I ever did, staying and fighting for that love, but it was the most rewarding thing I ever did. I want you to be happy, not the fleeting, sugar rush happiness of a new romance, but the deep, abiding joy of a love that has been tested in the fire and come out as gold. That is the only gold that matters in the end. Thanks for listening to an old soul ramble on for a bit. If this meant something to you, please subscribe, share this with someone you love, maybe even the person you're struggling with right now, and cherish them while they are. Here, make the choice. I promise you it's worth it.